Hi, I'm Jean and I recently went through the Thrive programme with James in Cambridge. Let me share with you my story. I was born into a large family where I was neglected and expected to do a lot of things in terms of bringing up my siblings. Looking back on it, I was literally a slave. The neglect I experienced led to rape and being sexually abused as a child by my elder brothers. I received no help. What happened to me affected how I viewed the world. I did marry and start a family. I wanted to make the lives of my own children different to my own. I devoted all my energy and time to them and hadn't looked at me and who I was. My childhood experiences made me a people pleaser. I took this into my married life. I felt I was expected to put me at last, which I did for many, many years. This caused me a lot of pain, as I felt the only way to get love was to put everyone else first. I hadn't slept for many years because of hypervigilance. I was exhausted and felt no one cared for me. I was struggling with the consequences of my disclosure of childhood sex abuse to my mother, sister, husband and children. I was left with unloved feelings, and because of the reactions of my immediate family, a huge resentment because I'd stood by them with their problems. Some of the comments I endured included, I was an old woman and it was time I got over it. I hadn't got many years left, I was spoiling everything, and I'll always be a victim. I felt my children didn't really want to know how I was feeling. Maybe they couldn't deal with it. I wasn't really sure what their opinion of me was, as it was never discussed. I didn't trust myself to make the right decisions, so I never made a decision. I couldn't trust others, never believed I was good enough, as I felt no one wanted to know the secret I had kept for years. I had very low self-esteem. A huge reason for my despair was due to looking for the support which I didn't get from my family, and I came to the conclusion they couldn't help or support me. It was about 15 years ago I first started asking for help. I started with my doctor, who told me to go away and get on with it, as I had 2 successful sons and I was still married. Although I insisted he gave me a counsellor's name, the fear he instilled in me was so great I put it on my fridge door. It stayed on my fridge door for 5 years and I never used it. I eventually joined a local support group in my area which encouraged me to go to counselling, which I did for a year. I attended 2 workshops in London which were laid on for women who were abused as children, and the speakers had suffered the same fate. I have read lots of books about childhood sex abuse and the effects it can have on a person. I went back to another doctor and I was encouraged to self-refer myself to a charity who helped women like myself. I joined their support group as the first one had folded. I went to counselling. This time it was run by a charity that was specifically set up to help women who had been sexually abused as children. I went there for another 7 months. I attended many well-being workshops and socials. Again, my doctor gave me the number to self-refer. I went to the doctors about sleep, where I received sleeping pills, and I fought to go to the sleep clinic in Papworth Hospital. I tried acupuncture for sleep, and I also went to see a nutritionist. As you can see, I've tried really hard to solve the problems of my childhood had left me, but nothing really worked for any length of time, and I was back to searching for something to help me, but mainly I was just surviving. Some of these things helped me to understand that my problems were normal for a survivor of childhood sex abuse, such as insomnia and many of my triggers. Those triggers set off anxiety and panic attacks. The knowledge I gained was good, but I was still left not knowing what to do or how to deal with the deep sorrow I felt about not being loved and dealing with triggers which led to anxiety and sometimes panic. The Thrive programme and James was recommended to me by someone who deals with people like myself through trying to prevent childhood sex abuse. After all the work I'd put in over the years, I could not see how this was going to change me in 6 to 8 weeks. I'm now in my late 60s, and because I've always wanted to stop all the effects my childhood had left me with, this led me to approach James. It's the best thing I've ever done, and I wish I'd have found him earlier. I've had to do the work, and the Thrive book was so easy to read and understand. And when I didn't, I had the excellent help from James. I am now a thriver, and I'm sleeping most nights. This is something I have to stick with, and I continue to make progress. I've learnt so much about myself and how I think, and what to do to change the things I want to change. I have been given the tools to stop the effects I was carrying around with me for so long. Now I can live my life. The Thrive programme has changed my look on life. I am now doing lots of things I've never done before. Hypervigilance rarely appears in my life, and when it does, I know how to deal with it, so it's not with me for so long. My triggers are not so powerful now. I think my reactions have probably the same impact on me that everyone experiences, and not overwhelming. Therefore, I have no anxiety or panic attacks, as I am able to cope with most situations in a way that doesn't have a lasting effect on me. My self-esteem now is great. I would really recommend the Thrive programme. This is the only thing that has really worked in 15 years of trying to deal with the abuse I suffered as a child. Thank you.